harvesting. That heifer right there just don't even care. Action.
Hey y'all.
What do you say, folks? Hope everybody's having a fine Sunday evening. It been pretty warm, but a little warm.
Mm-hmm.
Humidity's kind of showing itself a little more and more every day, but still some fine mornings.
It was 90 degrees today.
Yeah, 90 degrees. Got the heater going. The heater. AC going.
Yeah, we ain't got no heater going
Lord, no.
here. Not at all.
Yeah. Hope everybody having a fine evening. Got
Mm-hmm.
good little crowd moseying on in. Appreciate everybody.
Everybody's
Dropping on by.
excited. We got somebody else to talk to.
Yes. Y'all ain't got to sit here and listen to me talk. And I know there's some people going, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. We, our special guest this evening, he's been with us one time already.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to looking, and it's been 1 year, not to the date, but according to YouTube, 1 year.
Oh,
I didn't really realize it, I guess, when I reached out to him.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, 1 year since he's been with us. But he agreed to come back and chit chat this year.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, y'all, get your questions ready. If you got anything you want to ask Mr. Keith Spillman, get them ready. We're going to pick his brain on things up there and how he's keeping the bees in that fine country.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then we'll open up the chat in a little bit. Anybody wants to come in and talk, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk or derail, one of the two. We'll get somewhere with it. But I think Keith's going to have some good stuff to share this evening, I believe. It ain't scripted. We just going to go with it. So, but we are going to ask him to introduce himself shortly, and then we'll march on from there in case anybody out there don't.
He's saying
know
he got 1 inch or 11 inches of snow this morning, and it's 90 degrees down here.
Is it? All right. Do we have a typo, Mike Tangway? Is it 1 inch or 11 inches of snow?
Either way, it's snow.
I know.
I'm not going to spill my coffee on your word.
1.
But I'm kind of joking.
But still, like you said, snow.
Yeah.
Where we at? Fixing to go into May?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our chances of anything like that. So done and over with. But hopefully this is y'all's last one. I know I've been saying that for the last 5 Sundays in a row. But hopefully y'all get past it. And but I do know, I guess y'all had some warm days up there in the North Country, and the girls been able to get out and mosey a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
A couple of flight days here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many.
Our little old swarm, they're doing good out there.
Mm-hmm.
They building and growing. Privet,
Not having a good year at all.
no, just burning up. We ain't had a lick of rain to really, I guess, brag about by any means. We had enough to make the dirt outside smell. You know how when it's dry for so long, you can smell the rain,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it's been like.
You can smell dirt.
Yeah, privet pretty well burned up. So we'll see. I will. For you Jasper lovers, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
we got one of them for sure that's gonna stay here at Gunline, and it's one of the little girls. Yeah, she's one of the runts, but she's got a bad attitude, so we're gonna keep her.
No, she's got to get that too.
So you don't see their eyes are just now opening. So
But
y'all look at the top of her head up there.
because that's how she got her name.
Go ahead and tell them.
Her name's Button, y'all.
Yep.
No, Jasper's not babysitting. He's scared to death of
He
these
is.
little bitty puppies.
He is terrified of these
He
puppies,
will
y'all.
run.
Yep. But
I knew Danae would appreciate that.
that's Button.
So,
she's definitely staying.
mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
it's
But I
pretty
gotta
good
go put her back in there with her mama.
Yep. But what else got going on? Oh, the swarms. Like I said, things ain't looking good on the privet run by any means. So don't know how that's really going to go as far as anybody around our area, I guess. We need several days of rain. What we need, just some good spring showers, but they talking about we may not get any until about Thursday or Friday probably of this coming week. But let me run through here and say howdy to some of y'all right fast, and we'll get the prayer list, and we'll get Mr. Spillman in here, and we'll talk some bees and Bertha. I'm excited about both, but definitely like on Bertha.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Miss Danae, she done moved it in here, got first.
Mm-hmm.
Phil made a good run at it. 33-mile Phil. Old second there. Mr. Mike Tangway, DC. Miss Deb, Sun Bunny. Mr. Keith Spillman up here in the fine country. Who else here? Miss Michelle Spillman. Hey, Miss Michelle.
Her and Samson.
Samson.
I don't know if that's a cat or a dog.
That's the new Beagle dog that just
Beagle
showed
dog.
up.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah. Oh, I love me no Beagle.
Mm-hmm.
I have 10 of them if she let me.
Oh, he'll serenade you too.
Oh, I will.
Just like a beagle.
Brian and Jen, good to see y'all. Todd out there. Hashtag missing fingers. Barnhill B Barn. Oh yes. Stone River. Good to see y'all.
Yeah.
Bill Lee. Ricky Gildy. Jack. Good to see you. J and D's. Philip. One of them Texans out there. I got some questions about them swarms, but I don't know if I'm gonna text you or leave it in a comment. But I guess I'm questioning some of those swarms out there. I'll just leave it
He's
at that.
driving, so you better not leave it in a comment.
Yeah, I'm not going to distract him while he drives. Too bad. Grayson, good to see you, bud. Who else we got here? Matt. Good to see y'all. Barry Kind Bees. Moses. On down here. I don't want to miss none of y'all. If I do, I apologize. Mr. Bill Lee, I think I got you. Dodd House. Damien, good to see y'all. Bundy, Mr. Mark Miller. If you're on the road with them 18 wheels, be careful, Captain. Who else? Richard, good to see you. Pastor Larry, Miss Jan, Miss Leona. Well, good deal, y'all. Appreciate everybody coming by and supporting Mr. Spillman this evening. I'm interested. I know I'll leave my question at the very end in case nobody asks, but I'm pretty sure somebody's going to ask this question, but I am quite curious. It's like I was telling Keith. Anybody that watched Keith last year, well, we just kind of maybe go back year before last. He was year before last getting in a good routine, I guess, if you will. Rhythm. There we go. And then last year, but it just took off and kept going and kept going. And Keith just numbers exploded, colonies everywhere, all over the place for him, catching swarms, phenomenal honey flow all around. And this year is looking like the man's going to have a good repeat, Lord willing, better. But the season is kicking off right, that's for sure. And Lord willing, it's doing the same for everybody up there. But seems like Keith has found a spark somewhere, and things have just kind of he's latched hope to it and found a good way for himself and doing good, real good.
Sorry, I was
joking.
I was listening.
Well, what's everybody got in the chat?
That redfish came in, so I was asking how Miss Janet was doing.
Okay.
But I didn't want to type what I was trying to say.
Let's see. Yeah, redfish there. Kathy May.
Mr. Martin Miller came in.
What about
Bundy came in.
What about our troublemaker up there in North Alabama?
Which one? Oh, I haven't seen Mr. Martin.
Mr. Mike Conley.
I hadn't seen him. Unless he's in the background. He just hadn't gotten to chat.
He's probably wondering if I'm okay. Because I ain't called him. What?
Oh, he knows you're okay. We were late, like usual.
But y'all, we're gonna go ahead and do the prayer list. If there's anybody we need to add to or take off, let us know. There's a couple on our end we'd like to ask you to add as well, but Miss Hannah get into that here in a minute.
All right, we got Mr. Mark and Miss Crystal, Ed and his family, the Dirt Roosters' daddy, Mr. Pat, Miss Deb, Mike Tangway and his family, DC's parents, baby Luca, Deanna Wheeler and her son Reed, Rachel Wilson, her sister Amanda, their niece Riley, Philip's mama, his friends BJ and his wife, let's see, Bobby's Bees and his family, Mr. Larry Gandy and their family, Hillbilly Earl, Miss Leona, Steve Amos's father-in-law, PJ Hanley, Catherine's son and his family, Sarah and her family, Mr. Randy's mother-in-law, Miss Janae Wood, Kenneth and Chris Wilkinson, Terry Bertaland, Redfish's wife, Miss Janet, Kimberly Schmidt's family, Kenneth Allen, Miss Dolores Pepperuki, Denny Ray, Keith Larimore's wife, Miss Brenda, James Creel, Clay Bunner, Steve-O, Rodney Middleton, Kathy Baker's friend, Miss Williams, let's see, Philip's cousin's daughter-in-law, Mary Beth Hobbs, let's see, Lee's cousin, Stephanie Riley, then DC added Dan Garrison's daughter was just diagnosed with cancer, and then our pastor and his wife, we were going to add them. Y'all remember them that did the honey tasting with us, but this week they found several masses in Brother Sammy's liver and pancreas. and he's got to go to the cancer center next week to kind of see what's what and what the plan is for him with all that. So, but them and Lee's cousin Stephanie is having surgery tomorrow for her cancer, and then I don't remember if Philip said his cousin had any procedures. I don't think he said anything about that.
Not that I know of.
But
You know,
definitely remember her because she's battling cancer too. But y'all please say a special prayer for Lee's cousin and her family tomorrow.
and to go back, Redfish was commenting back to you a minute ago while you was reading the prayer list, but he said, I got a long way to go. We'll probably have to go back to South Carolina for another surgery. She has a lot of fluid on her brain.
Oh man.
So,
Well,
Lord
we
willing.
sure still praying for y'all, Miss Janet.
Absolutely. Lord willing, we'll get that
Everybody.
remedy.
But I'm with you, DC. I'm sick and tired of hearing the word cancer here lately.
Yeah, because, and to one of the widow women in our church, her daughter just found out she's got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And we just found all this out in our church family within the last few days, on top of everybody that was speaking last week and that has sent text messages. But yes, y'all pray for folks. We appreciate you. Every one of you out there doing so.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
all right. We're gonna bring the man in
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna talk Bertha and bees. All right.
In whichever order Keith wants to go.
Okay. All right, let's get the man in here and we'll see what we can
come
stir
up with
up
this evening.
That's it. There we go.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good, brother. How you up there in them fine hills?
I'm kind of wore out. Had that show today down in Denton, North Carolina, military show. Had Bertha down there. So I've been talking all day.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time this evening. And y'all, a little secret. Hannah wouldn't be surprised about this at all, but it was like a last minute thing. I was like, who can we have on that's just having a good season?
Last minute to tell me.
No, I even told Keith that. I told Keith, I admitted that to Keith in the message. I said, I know this is last minute, but man, you're having such a good season already this year. Any chance we can pick your brain about this year and last year? And God love him, he was like, yeah, man.
Yeah,
That's why.
well, that won't picking my brain. That won't take too long.
Well, DC is kicking it off with probably the most important question of the night.
All right, we'll go ahead.
Fall in love at first sight.
Actually, I restored that 55 M38A1 Army Jeep first. Dad bought that back in 1969 from a local fire department, so it's been in the family pretty much since I can remember. But I restored it first and had such a good time. I'd heard rumors of this half-track in a barn. It actually belonged to an old electronics instructor of mine from high school. And I went over and looked at it and, fell in love with it. I'm like, oh, yeah, we can do this. But she was in a million pieces. I posted some pictures of what she looked like when I found her. And, she was pretty sad looking. No rear armor, no engine, no interior, no rear at all as far as the back half. So she was pretty sad, but she was a good project. I enjoyed that.
She looked like to be quite the interesting project, especially for I was thinking this earlier, trying to just go through things about Bertha, but for your military buffs especially, and any of you mechanics out there, to me, I'm not a mechanic. I dislike it as much as you can dislike doing something, but I can do it. It's just not number one
Right.
on my list by any means. But with me saying all that, Keith's got some good videos of him putting her back together.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know how he did this and that and so on and so forth, he can tell you more on it. But I enjoyed watching Keith put it together instead of me putting it together. I guess it was a lot more fun.
Yeah, I posted a few videos. I didn't take a lot of video, but I took a ton of pictures while I was working on her. So there's a few videos cranking the engine, doing different things, first ride, playing around. I've posted, I think I'm up to about part 4 or part 5 of photos of the process. So yeah, it was a good project because she was in a million pieces when I found her. Most of the time when you take something apart, it's a whole lot easier to put it back together. You know, when somebody else took it apart, that makes it a lot more difficult because I had a lot of bits and pieces and brackets and parts and stuff, and I didn't have a clue where it went. So I had to buy all the military technical manuals and every book I could find with pictures, a lot of good resources on the internet. And I had to do a lot of research trying to figure out where all this stuff went, you know, what it was for. So it
It's one thing. Where does this one little Carter pen go? That holds it all together.
let's see. Russell's asking, do I have trouble?
Go ahead.
He's asking if I have trouble finding parts. Yeah, some of the stuff was pretty hard to find. Some of the fabricated and drill the holes and countersink them. But amazingly, few folks across the states have been in use, and it's amazing what they've got. They've got a lot of bread. You know, if you can find the right person and you're willing to pay what they want, you can get a lot of things out of Europe because a lot of our equipment is there. So the price of the parts coming out of Europe and slow. So, but yeah, but it's amazing the military makes as far as spare parts out there.
Is it
brand new in the box?
Is it just us or is Keith cutting out? I don't
know if it's our
it's one of
service
us
or if it's your audio.
Uh-oh. My antiquated PC stuff is giving trouble.
Mr. Russell said cutting out.
Okay, I was afraid it was our.
Okay, he's breaking up a little.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just thinking, man, difficult.
DC said good enough.
I know it seems okay now. I'm with him. He sound a lot clearer now.
But if there's any place to break down, this is the safest place to do it, Keith. So don't you worry one bit, brother.
Yeah, well, my problem, I've got a great internet connection, but I've just got old equipment hooked to it. So
it's going good now.
Yeah, my laptop's about as old as Bertha is.
Okay. If we can we back up to getting parts from Europe?
Oh, okay. The we left a lot of equipment behind after World War II. The Jeeps, the Halftracks. We didn't really bring back anything but the high dollar stuff like tanks. So there's probably more Halftracks in Europe than there are in the United States. So they have a lot of parts over there. You know, I ordered several things, and the parts were reasonable, but the shipping was terrible and really slow. So yeah, there's a lot of reenactors and American military equipment that we left in Europe that they still play with. So probably more so than we do at times.
That's crazy. Oh, yeah, you got DC wanting a tank now.
Okay. Okay, Redfish. I'll crank the handle on the side, and I'll climb the phone pole out back and make sure the wires are tight.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Telegraph Man, we got a problem.
Got to put on my aluminum foil hat.
Yeah, just adjust them rabbit ears, you'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, Chuck. Let's see. What did it? All right, we got the history of Bertha, and then all right, I done went through the rebuild part as far as him having the pictures and all that stuff. But I'll go in just a minute. Anybody, if you're not, imagine 99% everybody's in here is sub to Keith. But if not, go check him out at Halftracks and Honeybees. And before we move on from Bertha, you sent some pictures for anybody that
Love to see.
wanted to see. That's right. Let's see. Here we go. All right. We're going to show this new logo first. How about that one, Keith?
Yeah, that'll work. There you go. Yeah, pretty happy with that.
Yeah, they done a good job. Who done that work for you?
It was a local outfit called Dirt Road Graphics. Not too far from here. So they did a great job for me.
Let's see here. All right. And you got this on the side of this fine machinery here.
Yep. There she is.
Gentlemen. So you got all right, that's a 50 cal up there. What else we got on it?
Yeah, on each side behind the pulpit. The pulpit's up on top where the 50 cal is. It's 1919s on each side behind that. 30 cals shoot a 30-06 bullet.
So you pretty well got her back to the way she was, except for, a couple things that you couldn't do realistically, but like far as the weaponry, but pretty well got her back to the way she was.
Yeah. No, the guns. I will admit the guns are replica guns. We do a lot of stuff at schools and different events that if they were real guns, I wouldn't be allowed to do some of the cool stuff that we get to do. Plus every time I parked, I'd have to pull the guns off because they'd be worth too much money, and too much liability. So having replica guns makes a whole lot less heartburn. So I like to let the kids climb on board, adults, whoever. If they were real guns, I couldn't do that. So it works out good this way.
Carl, he might be able. I don't know. You see Carl's comment?
Yeah. No, it's a made replica. It can never be made to fire.
Okay.
And then DC says you can't own it without permits. That's true. But you could get the permits if you were willing to pay enough, and you could have a automatic 50 cal. So, but yeah, I don't want to do that.
No. There ain't no telling what the cost of those permits would cost you, especially yearly.
Yeah, and the liability would be terrible. I mean, if somebody stole your automatic 50 cal, think of the damage that could be done. That would
Yes, sir. They probably frown on it just a little bit. And somebody did get their hands on something.
Yeah,
like that.
and I've actually had the local police ask me before I did certain parades if the gun live guns in their Christmas parade. So I can understand that.
Oh yes. Buffering again. Uh-oh. We get it. All right, y'all. I guess we'll mosey on into some beekeeping, and I guess kind of highlight, Keith, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead. Try it again.
Say that again.
Okay. I get you're buffering again on it. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yeah, what was your last question?
I was gonna say if you just kind of give everybody a recap of last year on how you started out the season and kind of how she ended up for you. And I know there's a lot in between because you were splitting colonies, you were catching swarms, and your honey flow was just like I was saying, just pretty much a good phenomenal flow that you had up there. It seemed like that you couldn't keep up with them for the most part. But if you will, just kind of take us back, if you can, to early spring and what triggered you to say, let me put some boxes on here earlier and let me look at doing some splits maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Now, to get ahead just a little bit, this year is looking a whole lot like last year from my point of view. This year looked like we were behind early on, but now it's almost like we're ahead a little bit. So I don't really know what normal is anymore. People say something's late, something's early. It changes I don't know what things are, but I've always, well, not always, because I hadn't always done this. I put my supers on early. Last year and this year, I put my supers on in early March to take advantage of the early flow that we have around here. I don't, let's see, last year I came out of winter with 17 hives. And I think this year I came out of winter with 23 hives. So I gained a few. If you watch some of my videos, you'll see that I really don't like to split my hives. I try to make them as big as I can without swarming, which is a tightrope. Everybody knows that. Last year I started going in probably every 5 days and looking through the boxes, peeping under the boxes, looking for swarm cells, making sure they hadn't capped any. Now, I do, once I find a hive that has capped cells, I will go ahead and split it. I've kind of found out once they start capping cells, it's hard to make them not split. So I'll split them hard and take them down, and hopefully they'll behave themselves. But this year I've only had to split, I think, about maybe 2 or 3 hives that made cells on me. The other ones are just really big hives. I run all medium boxes. So all of my hives are 3 mediums for the brood area, and the really big ones I go to 4. So that's almost like a double deep plus a medium for the brood section, and then the supers on top of that. But I think we've been blessed. The past 2 years we hadn't had a frost after things started blooming, so we didn't have anything get frozen. The rains have came good for us. We had a drought later on in the summer last year, but by that time I'd made all the honey I was going to make anyway, so that didn't affect me because it came hard and fast early in the summer. So things just kind of hit just right. We're in the middle of the forest around here, lots of woods. So the early flow is going to come from the maples, and we have, I don't know how many acres. Dead nettle and henbit grows in the fields after they cut the corn, and we've got fields that are just, I don't know, hundreds of acres of purple flowers. Early in the spring, and the bees are all over it. So I think that that aids to or adds to the flow in the early spring. But yeah, last year I pulled honey on April the 23rd was my first pull. This year, April the 21st was my first pull. So
Wow.
actually a little bit ahead of last year. Last year, my second pull was 10 days later. 10 days later, I pulled more than I did the first pull. So that's looking like I'm going to be pulling honey before the end of this week again. I'll peep in the supers probably Tuesday or Wednesday and see what they look like. But I pulled honey 5 times last year. You know, the reason I had to pull so many times was they kept filling my supers up and the flow was still going on, and I didn't want them filling up everything and then swarming or whatever they wanted to do, but I was out of equipment. So I had to pull the supers off and get them extracted right quick and then get them back on the same day. So that was a fun day doing that. This year, I've got a little bit easier this year because I found a local beekeeper friend of mine that went out of business, and he had a lot of really nice drawn frame in medium boxes, and I bought a lot of it. I think I had about 90 supers going into the spring. So you know, some of those I've used for my splits. Some I help about. I guess I'm up to about 5 people that I'm mentoring right now, and we've done splits for them, and I've sold equipment to them, so I use some of those supers for that. But yeah, right now, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I've got probably 19 or 20 production hives, or what I'm calling my production hives, and I've got 57 supers on them. So how crazy is that?
Wow.
If they fill all those up, I'm going to be in trouble.
Oh,
But
you're gonna be swimming in honey.
yeah,
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
need that
That's
to be there for
awesome,
sure.
man.
Drag that up the hill.
For real. That's awesome though, Keith. That really is.
yeah, you know, and when I check later on this week, you know that means I've got 3 supers on several hives. Hopefully, just 2 of them will need to be pulled. So that gives me the one that I can leave on there, because you don't want to. You can't pull all your supers and give that mass of bees nowhere to go. You know, I've never wanted to do that. So
Yeah.
I always like to pull supers and leave somewhere for the bees to go. Because even if you're I use a combination of escape boards to clear my supers, along with fume boards. But obviously, if you use fume boards, the bees you got to push them somewhere, so they've got to have room to move out of that top super. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling a little bit because I can't really put my finger on the silver bullet that what I'm doing right. But
Yeah.
we've been blessed with great weather. We're in a great place. You know, we're here in the eastern foothills of North Carolina, at the edge of the Piedmont and the foothills. So you know, we've had some really nice springs the past 2 years, and it's looking good. It's looking good so far.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to back up a little bit, Keith. We can.
Yeah.
But let me ask this before we back on up. Was there, because I'm gonna go somewhere with it, was there ever a time that you run deep for anything for brood or super, or you just whenever you got into beekeeping was like, well, I'm just going to go run these mediums to start with?
I've really I've had mediums from the get-go. Early on when I can't remember if that very first hive that a friend gave me had a deep on it. It might have, because he runs deeps now. But I remember the first nuke I bought and the first equipment that I purchased, the supplier gave me the option of deeps or mediums, and kind of, you know, what he was saying about running all mediums, I thought that sounded pretty cool. And that's what I did. So I love it. It makes my equipment inventory very simple. It's all mediums. When I buy anything, it's medium boxes, medium frames, medium foundation.
Mhm.
When I'm working the hives, some people will say it's a lot more boxes to mess with. Um, yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. Instead of a double deep, I've got 3 boxes. So yeah, I got one more box to look through. But I rarely go through all my boxes. When I'm doing an inspection, most of the time the queen is laid in the top medium, and I rarely see my queens. I'll rarely dig for a queen unless I'm trying to find one for somebody, one of my newbies that I'm mentoring and wants to see a queen. If I pop the cover, the first frame I look at has eggs and a young larva, I'm done. I put the top back on. I didn't go through 3 boxes. I looked at 5 frames. So I don't really see it, changing my labor a whole lot. Now when I'm turning boxes up looking for queen sales, yeah, I guess that's more boxes to turn over and look for queen sales. I can't deny that. But gosh, mediums give you so many options. When I need to pull up frames to get them to draw some comb, when I need to move stuff around, I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. All the frames are the same size, so it's nice.
Well, you ain't rotating back and forth trying to figure out if you got, like say, enough medium, enough deep per box. So okay, I got X amount of boxes, and that's just all you got to worry about on things. But
I do see the appeal of just keeping everything the same. There's no mixing stuff up or whatever.
But
Yeah,
somebody watching though, it seems it's working really good for you up there, just like for us watching you. And I guess your journey, if you will, as far as what you're putting on YouTube. But
You're watching too much.
yeah,
I'm not dirty.
yeah. But the mediums seem to be working very well for you.
yeah, I can't. DC mentioned it's more equipment. Yeah, it's more boxes. But gosh, it's nice. If I'm getting ready to go in and do an inspection, I know I've got hives that are going to need another box or whatever. I'll usually pre-stage stuff. I'll just take mediums full of plastic, heavy waxed foundation, some drawn comb, different things. With a handful of boxes, I can handle pretty much anything that comes up. If I've got a hive that suddenly needs to be split for some reason, it's so easy. I can do a dirty split, just pull the medium off, set it on a bottom board, inner cover, and a top, and I've got another hive sitting there. I mean, it's brood in a super is not that big a deal. I noticed on one of my inspections, I don't know, it was really before the flow got going good, but the queen was already brooding up good in the hive. Somehow, when I put the supers on, I got the queen on the top side of the excluder. So when I went to look at the super to see how much honey I had, my supers were plumb full of brood. I mean, she had packed them, which makes really pretty brood in brand new comb that you're using for a super. But yeah, I just pulled those off and made another hive out of it, and found the queen and got her below the excluder, put 2 more supers on, and here we go. So I don't know. It's just easy to work with. Let's see. Brian's asking, in a 3 medium brood chamber, where do I typically find swarm cells? The top box or the middle box. Rarely will they be in the bottom box. Now I do rotate my boxes early spring when it warms up a little bit and I'm not worried about breaking the cluster. Normally during the winter, the the queen or the bees, however you want to look at it, they'll move up into the top 2 boxes and there won't be anything left in the bottom medium. So I'll rotate that around and put the empty box on top, and then you end up with 3 boxes full of brood going into the flow. It actually works out pretty slick.
on your frames. Oh, well, let me say your new frames and foundation, because you know drawn comb is the gold, if you will, as far as just letting them go in and immediately start filling up things. But are you buying a particular foundation, or are you just kind of re-waxing by whatever foundation you get, and they're just getting on it during the flow good?
I usually buy most all of my bee supplies from Miller Bee Supply up in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. They're only about I guess 45 minutes from here, and it's a pretty drive up towards the mountains. But they use Peerco foundation is what they sell. But I've used Peerco, Acorn, Premier. You know, the biggest thing I've seen is adding that extra wax to the frames makes so much difference. You know, putting an extra good coat of beeswax, and the ladies seem to draw it out so much quicker. And you know, that I'll back up a little bit. That was one thing I used to do a lot of, that I built up a lot of my drawn comb before I bought all that drawn comb last year. I would take all my hives in the springtime, early spring, and I would feed them tons of sugar syrup, and I'd draw lots of comb out. I had really good luck doing that. But then all my hives would go completely bonkers. I think it was I gave them too much of a sugar buzz or something. I'm not sure. The last year I did that was 2 years ago. I think I made 50 gallons of honey that year. But I think DC will attest to it. It was almost like I had the swarm of the day. Every day I was having swarms. You know, and it was my bees. I was watching them come out of the hives. You know, I'd be in the shop working, and y'all know the sound. It sounds like a jet taking off. So I had my little cart ready where I could run out. It had all my swarm stuff on it, and I'd grab my little wagon, and here we go to catch a swarm. So yeah, you can draw a lot of comb in early spring feeding sugar syrup, but I think it might have some bad side effects. You know, once the flow does start, mine just went crazy. So the past 2 years I haven't done that. I haven't drawn out comb in the early spring. I might try to draw out some later on this year after the flow, but not early spring.
He said, "I'm not going to crank y'all up again like before."
Yeah,
I
they
like that.
they love that sugar. Y'all know that. But yeah, that just made them go crazy. So yeah, we'll back off on that a little bit.
So, are your tulip poplar starting to crank up around there?
Yeah. Michelle laughs at me. I'll go out on the deck with my binoculars looking at the tops of trees so I can tell what's going on. But but you've probably done that before too, Tim.
Well,
but
I'm learning a lot of you, Tim.
Well, I will look real hard, especially them old poplars, because there's not a whole bunch of them around here. It's
They're very few and far between down here.
But we got them. It's just when you see one, it's like I'm tuning into that boy real close to see if that flower's even opening up yet, or if it's all the way open, anything like that. Or if you're already starting to see them drop on the ground, you're like, well, either the squirrels cut you or we're starting to get a little bit behind.
Right. Yeah, around here, you know, another channel that I enjoy watching is Duck River Nathan over in Tennessee. You know, he's a big fan of poplar trees, and I think it was his video maybe last week. He was talking about that the tulip poplar blooms didn't open fully until the tulip poplar leaves were full size. Well, this past week I think he backed off on that a little bit because his tulip poplars had bloomed way before the leaves had got to full size. So I think we're having some of that same thing around here. But tulip poplars around here, there's thousands of them. I mean, it's, and every tulip poplar is like a flower garden in the sky. So you got tens of thousands of trees, and with each one's got thousands of blooms, and the bees just go bonkers. Each flower is like a little cup of nectar, and and that's really the money tree. The black locust it's already came and it's fading out now. The blackberries are starting to bloom here. We have some bushes around like privet and autumn olive, that sort of thing, but it's really not huge amounts. It's more like somebody bought them for a shrub and they spread a little bit. Nothing like what you folks should have. I understand your privet's not doing good for you this year.
No, it's been bad.
Yeah, it's the lack of rain
Yeah.
on it.
But yeah, that's where we've been lucky. The rain has hit us just right. Little showers, not big gully washers washing the nectar out of anything. The black locusts around my house, they hung around a long time. It don't take much to knock the blooms off of black locusts, and that's the end of it. But we've just been really blessed with some nice weather around here the past 2 years.
The poplar, now it's been kind of the opposite far as watching them bloom down here. They're putting off the leaves. A good, pretty green foliage is putting off on them, but they haven't, or I say within the last week or so, the trees that we know where they're at, they haven't been putting any flowers off yet. So maybe perhaps we get us, a good spring showers instead of gully washers, where the ground can actually soak the rainwater up. Perhaps maybe that open that tulip poplar up and maybe kind of catch whatever the privet didn't pick up on. Lower winter.
That would be good if it did. The tulip poplars, it lasts for several weeks around here usually. The flow is going on real good right now because after I extracted honey, I can't remember, Thursday or Friday. No, it was when I put the honey in jars, and I had some honey buckets that had a little bit of honey left in them. I put them out on the deck and nobody showed up. You got a good flow when you can put the honey buckets out on the deck and nobody shows up. So so then you have to wash your equipment instead of letting the bees clean it. I like it when the bees clean it off for me. They'll do that later on in the flow. You can push your equipment outside and it looks like a horror movie, but I love doing that. So
and they'll clean it all up for you.
Oh, they clean it perfect.
Crack and crevice in there.
Nothing left but a little pile of wax crumbles that you have to pour out of your extractor. And
absolutely.
And they're dry, so you can just go ahead and put them on up.
Yeah, they're dry, so you don't even have to mess with them. So, but yeah, we've got the honey in the jars. I'm going to start selling it first of the week. It's kind of, I don't know if it's unique how I do it, but I've got kind of I don't know if it's a fan base you'd call it, of customers on Facebook that let me know that they want to be on my early list. So when I get some honey, I'll just send out little messages to each one of them. And a lot of times we'll make arrangements and we'll meet somewhere, or they'll come by the farmer's market or whatever, and we'll start selling honey. But I'm really enjoying that part of it. Making a product that people enjoy. That's kind of cool.
And they go tell their friends.
Yeah.
Especially if you got something they like. They're like, hey man, old so and so down the road got some good honey.
Yeah.
And they're everybody about your honey tea.
And they're learning too. This honey that I've got right now, it's I never make light honey like some people have. It's light for me, and it's kind of a golden color. But I wanted to pull that early enough before the tulip poplar got going good, because y'all know what I sent down there. That tulip poplar is a reddish color, and it's a pretty bold tasting honey.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to split up between those two flavors and give my customers two different colors and flavors of honey, when they come to the market.
Yeah.
So plus I'm selling honey to a mead maker that's up in the mountains that makes some really good mead, and he likes to have the different flavor profiles of the honey, so he can work his magic with it. The mead he made last year with the tulip poplar, he called it Halftrack 50 Cal was the name of the mead, and I think he sold about all that he made. It was really good. So I didn't give him the early spring honey last year, so this is going to be something different for him. I've got a 5-gallon bucket I'm taking to him Wednesday to let him sample it. So we'll see what he thinks of that. So that's always fun. Something new, something different.
Well, it's another avenue.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. So but yeah, so far so good this year. The colonies are, the bees are just flying crazy right now. Y'all know how they come out of the hive when they're going after a flow, coming out like little bullets.
On a mission.
Oh yeah, looking down the row of hives right now, it's just they're going for it right now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be like I said, I'll check supers again middle of the week. It might end up pulling some more honey by the end of the week. We'll see.
That's just wild already.
Yeah. But I try to stay ahead of them. Like I say, I don't want them getting clogged up, and I don't want them filling up all the supers on the hive, because then I'm in a mess. Then there's nowhere for them to go. Then I'm back in the pickle of having to extract and get the wets back on the same day.
DC just said.
His boxes are full of bees.
DC just said in the chat, I'm waiting to hear from Keith. I'm having 13 swarms a day.
I'm on the edge, DC. Yeah, it can happen any minute. The one thing that I do, we can see what the crowd reaction is. I do a lot of work to get them to this point. Now, once the flow starts, I don't do a lot of inspections once the flow starts. I don't tear all the supers off and tear into the hive and do anything. I've done my work up to this point. Now it's their turn. And it seems like once a good flow is going, it kind of turns down their swarming instinct a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Y'all can. I'll be curious to see what the comments say about that. But it seems once they get down to business, that kind of takes over. And they're more worried about bringing in the groceries than they are busting the hive up. So that's kind of worked good for me. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's kind of worked for me, so we'll go with it.
Well, hey, if it works for you, keep going with it.
A lot of my theories are not scientifically proven, but they work for me.
You know how we roll around here.
This just maybe like my small thinking about it, but with him adding them boxes on and constantly, well, I don't say constantly, but making sure they have room to put honey, to bring the nectar in and start placing into the cells to get honey stores. All right. By him giving them that room, say up high, and especially if they're just starting to get used to running up high, if you will. Well, you're not allowing for any kind of honey bound, because he's constantly giving them room to put stuff boom, keeping them up there. Is where I'm just saying what I'm thinking, but keep them up there. They're constantly refilling on that end. Well, as we'll say baby bees, even though we're not supposed to, but as your baby bees are hatching, well, your nurses are getting in there, your cleaning crew, cleaning them babies back up, polishing everything right back nice and pretty again. Boom. And immediately that queen can turn around and lay in that cell versus
Plus, it
them.
he just said they have the misconception of new space, even though it's the same.
There we go. He found the big word to put in there to make
He was
it going.
there.
Well, we were going there together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. They are baby bees at Gunline. DC.
Yep.
They're definitely baby bees at Gunline.
That was one reason I started putting my supers on so early, because when the flow did hit, if you didn't have the supers on, you know, they'll fill the brood boxes up with nectar. You know, that seems to trumps the queen. You know, then she's got nowhere left, and then they want to swarm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what pushed me to put the supers on that early. You know, a lot of people think it's like that's kind of crazy doing it like that, but once again, it works for me. And I am using queen excluders, if you were wondering about that. I didn't use them for years, but I started having so much trouble of the queens putting brood in my supers, which gets to be a pain when you pull a super, you're going to extract it, and suddenly you find out you got a frame of brood in the box that you were getting ready to extract, and that's always a bummer. So
Fabulous.
Put that one back.
So I started running excluders. Last year was the first year I ran them, and I made a lot of honey. I can't see that they hurt anything. I like excluders now. I'm definitely running them on all the hives this year. So yeah, I can't.
Speaking of excluders, and I imagine most everybody's probably running them things, but that company sent us that 8-frame medium deep to put together and give our, what they call it? Maybe hives. Yeah. But asked us to demo that thing. But their equipment was all right, I'll say. But the one thing that really impressed me, and we will buy from here on out, but that was them stainless queen excluders. Man. Yeah, because I mean, I honestly, I did a side-by-side comparison, if you will. I took my hand and I run over that stainless. Then I grabbed one of them plastic excluders and I run my hand over that plastic. And I was like, oh, yeah, you can sure enough tell the difference. Your bees ain't going to get all cut up or, fray their wings, rubbing up against that plastic or anything like that. And me and Hannah was talking and said, yeah, whenever we get ready to order excluders, that'll be what we order from here on out, is them stainless excluders.
Yeah. I run all metal excluders. I agree with you. The only story I've got on the plastic is the only plastic one I had last year was on the 1 8-frame colony that I have. I have 1 8-frame. That's actually the first. I guess that's probably the first beehive that I bought, and I've still got it. That was my biggest honey producer last year. That 8-frame hive. It probably made 150 pounds of honey. So I know some folks like Tom and Melissa via Honeybees. They run all 8-frame stuff. So based on that, I have one of them, and it was my biggest producer. So that's pretty good evidence that 8-frame works just fine. But they did have a plastic excluder on it. But I agree, those edges on that plastic are terribly sharp. The metal has to be a lot easier on the bee than the plastic. But it's got a metal one on it this year. I got rid of the plastic one. So
I'm interested to see how that 8-frame. Everything we got is 10-frame, and we got a mix between medium and deep on everything. But it's all 10-frame except for what they sent us on that 8-frame run. But I am interested to see, okay, let's see how Wilson Bees does in here. But when we brought that swarm home, I went in the next day, I think it was, and I was going to put that queen excluder between the first super we put on there. Well, I grabbed that doggone queen excluder and I threw it on one of our boxes and I turned that joker one way, it didn't fit. I turned it another way, still didn't fit. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And after a few minutes of me wrestling with it, I'm going, no wonder, dummy, you took the 8 frame, you took every bit of that up to the country, to the old place, and put out for swarm traps. And the 8 frame is up there, and I put that swarm into our 10 frame stuff. So as I'm rushing along trying to do what have you, I'm twisting and turning, trying to figure out in my head, why in the world won't this thing go on here to fit when I know it should? It went to the 8 frame. But yeah, we hear, you see folks, a lot of folks even saying, look, I'm done with 10 frame. I'm even though it sounds crazy, stepping back 2 frames, but I'm going to start running everything 8 frame.
Yeah. I mean, normally in a 10 frame, you know, the 2 outside frames, a lot of times there's not much going on. Where an 8 frame, they seem to utilize it wall to wall better than the bees doing a 10 frame. So, you know, I don't know. Obviously, they work. But once you go one way, it's hard to make the change and go the other direction. That would be like somebody that has a garage full of deep boxes. I'd be hard pressed to convince them to go to mediums when they've got that much equipment. So
yeah.
It's just kind of, you got what you got.
I mean, if it works, I'm happy to work with either or on that end. But well, there we go. But we're gonna take a look and see how it goes.
Yeah. Let's see. Morris Homestead says here he wants to use, or they want to use excluders, but they're worried the bees won't pack the honey in.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and I know, you know, there's kind of, I don't know if you call them rules or not. You don't have too many rules with bees, but you know, some folks use excluders in ways that just don't work very well. You know, if you put a box of foundation above an excluder, they're probably not going to draw it out. You know, if it's just up there by itself. Where if you take the excluder out, they might draw it out. You know, I've not had much luck bees drawing out foundation through an excluder when it's just sitting there alone. But as far as slowing down honey, I hadn't seen that at all. They seem to just zip right through it.
There you go. That's about the route I was going to go with what DC's saying there. Put your honey supers on, let them work on it for a minute, and then shake their tails right on back down. Make sure the queen ain't come up and laid in nothing for sure. If it has, just swap them frames out with something, stick them down in the bottom.
Yep.
But
yep.
Just kind of have to tinker with it on that. But
yeah. Now what Russell K said there, bees will go through an excluder fast when you have wet supers. Now, I think wet supers are just crack for bees. Bees really like wet supers. You know, the only problem I have with wet supers later on in the season, probably towards the end of the flow, you got to be really careful when you start opening up the hives and putting those wet supers on. Even the supers just sitting around in the bee yard, that smell of honey gets in the air. And I don't know, my bees, they don't really start robbing each other. They just all go crazy. It's like they're all coming out to smell the next door neighbor's barbecue or something. It you know, the air will just be full of bees. And like I said, they're not robbing, they're just going crazy. So I have to be careful with that. You know, put the wets back on late in the day, early in the morning. Be as quick about it as you can. Because you know the honey smell coming off of those wets is just amazing to a bee. So especially late in the season.
Test it before you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Take your first box that you extract.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you put that one outside. That way, come check it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If they're not fooling with it,
Okay.
there's a good chance you're good to go.
Yeah, that's not a bad
If-
idea.
If they're all over it, you're going to go, that's a bad idea to put them back on.
Yeah.
Have at it, ladies. Here's all of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. That's true.
Let's see here. Can we discuss your nuke, what you was telling me about, and your new venture getting into that end of things?
Yeah. What I'm doing with the nukes, I'm mentoring some more folks this year. I think I'm up to about 5 now. And the latest one, the lady came Saturday. What was that? Yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. I have trouble with days since I retired,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to start her off. She's purchased 2 3-story 5-frame nukes, and my nukes are mediums also. So all my equipment's mediums. But I think that a nuke is a whole lot better, a whole lot easier hive to work with for somebody that's never been in a beehive than opening up a hive that might have 40 or 50,000 bees in it, and they're running over the edges and they don't know what to do with them, and they can't get them all crammed back in. Nukes are just small. You're looking at 5 frames at a time. There's not a whole lot of weight there as far as popping boxes off, setting them aside.
Mm-hmm.
They're not nearly as intimidating as a big old stack of 10-frame boxes full of bees. And they do all the same stuff that a big hive does. They make honey, they make brood, they'll swarm if you don't tend to them. They do, to me, they grow faster than a big hive. So you have to stay on top of them. It was funny yesterday. The lady, she came over and she had her brand new pearly white bee suit and her pearly white gloves, and you know how that is. A new beekeeper,
Mm-hmm.
and we popped open those nukes, and man, as soon as she left, I went back into them and pulled some brood out and pulled some honey out because I was fixing to sell her a couple of little bombs. They were about to run over with bees. So that's one thing you have to watch with nukes. They will grow really fast, but when I sell them to her, I'll have them to the point where they won't blow up on her too quick. But she just loved that. She loved the small hive. She loved the um, these 2 particular hives. A lot of my bees are really easy to work with. Most of the time they're as calm as they can be. I'm not going to say all the time, but most of they're pretty easy to work with. My good old Shacktown mutts. I haven't bought any queens or bees in probably 5 years. So all these are just, I do all walk-away splits. So I guess you'd say they're my stock, but they're mutts, nothing in particular. I've got dark ones and light ones and gold ones and all different colors of bees. So, but that's what I'm doing there. My newbies, that have never worked hives, I'm going to start pushing them towards starting out with nukes. And the nukes are good too. If they get used to working with the nukes, you can transfer it over to a twin frame. Let them have a 10 frame. So you got options. We'll see how it works. So far, I'm liking how it's working.
Do you want to talk about your configuration on those nukes? How you're running them? I guess trying to grow them numbers the way you are.
Yeah, no, nukes are a little bit different there. My biggest hives right now, I've got, I guess there's 7 mediums high, 4 4 with brood and 3 supers on top. Well, you can't really run a 5-frame nuke 7 boxes high. That's going to start getting a little weird.
Low top heavy, maybe.
Yeah, I guess you could like nail 2x4s on both sides or something, and try to keep them steady. I've found that about 3 high is about as high as I want to go with nukes. That being the case, most of mine, they'll have brood in the bottom 2 boxes. In the top box, a lot of times you can draw out a lot of comb on a nuke. Every time they get it drawn out, fill it back up, or have one drawn comb in the middle and put 2 waxed foundations on each side. You go back in a week and they've got it drawn out. They'll probably put some honey in it or put some nectar in it. So, have two boxes of brood and use the top box to work for you. And, they have my nukes. I've also got, I think I've got about 30 hives right now in my yard. 2 of them are Ricky Rourke's that I'm working on. And then 2 of the nukes belong to that lady I'm working with. But I probably got 5 other nukes. And, those are, the resource hives. They're always good for that. Spare parts. That's what I call them. If my, yeah. I mean, if I have my big production hives, if I lose a queen, if I need some brood, need a frame of food for a swarm, need a frame of brood for a swarm, man, you can pop open a nuke and get something out of it right quick, and they never know anything happened. They're a lot easier to, I guess you could say, they're a lot easier to steal parts from than a big hive, but because you can get in and out and find what you're looking for right quick. But I think nukes are great. I think I want to have more nukes, and I've got them through the winter really in the past with no problem. Like I said, they're just like a big hive. They just got to have food in a decent sized cluster, and they overwinter just fine.
Checking out these comments, I got to back up real quick.
Surprise.
Yeah. I didn't want to cut you off, and I don't know if you can see the comments either, but when we was you were talking about getting into nukes and but it's let me just read it. Yeah. Brian and Jen, they're at Flower Street. I've got 45 nuke splits in my backyard. I kind of owe my neighbors honey for being so outstanding. Understanding.
Yeah.
He said, kind of.
Yeah.
Owe them a little bit of honey.
What was it DC said that? He said, yeah, I was thinking when I saw your video, I bet he pays off his neighbors.
That's a lot of nukes.
That's hilarious.
Yes. But this is your first year kind of really just wanting to get out there a little bit, or did you tinker with it a little last year and said, you know what, hey, I want to do this again, one more time again?
What's that, with the nukes?
With your nukes, yeah.
I've always had a few around. I had some nukes last year as resource hives. Really, the only change is starting to try to push some of my new beekeepers towards a nuke instead of a 10 frame. That's kind of been, I don't know what the good word for it is. I don't sell a lot of bees. I don't sell packages or nukes, as far as a cardboard or a plastic nuke. But it seems like all the bees that I sell, my services come along with it. If I've sold several complete 10 frame hives, and then I help the person with them, just like I'm doing with these nukes. So, like we talked earlier, of course, the cost of my services is built into the price of whatever it is I'm selling, because the mileage running back and forth to their house, your time is worth something. So, you might not get paid for all of your time, but you need to get a little something for your time.
That's it. Oh yeah.
The the 2 nukes that I sold this lady, that also included, any mite treatments to get them through this season. So, so I'll take care of mite treatments for her this year, so she don't have to worry about buying any equipment or learning that piece of it right off the bat. So, I'll take care of that for her. But and she'll learn, and then if she wants to grow, she can buy her a vaporizer or whatever she wants to do. But I think beekeepers, a lot of young beekeepers, it's so easy. Gosh, you watch YouTube and you think you need to buy $10,000 worth of equipment just to get going. She was amazed. She had looked on, if you go to Amazon and look up beekeeper starter kit or something, and it's got 500 items in there that you really never use. And, she was amazed because, I told her all you really need is a smoker and a hive tool and maybe a bee brush and your bee suit. And that's about it, and a smoker. You got to have a smoker. But gosh, you could do 99% of what you need to do with just a few items. You don't need to go rob a bank to become a beekeeper. So,
I mean, we fell into that trap because we bought our first nuke, brought them home, and got to searching. Okay, let's get a bigger box for them and this and that, because it ain't going to be long before they'll be expanding.
That's true. You do need boxes for your bees, but
yeah, but we bought the kit deal to where it come with the smoker, the scraper, the guillotine, the this, the whole. I mean, just went full on far as.
And half of it was junk.
Yeah, and there's still stuff that literally is still got the packaging around it that we've never used.
Yeah. There's a lot of items out there like that. I've got a whole I've got my little wagon I pull around in my apiary that's got all my, I can put my boxes in it or whatever I need, and I've got a Rubbermaid tote that I set in there that's got the stuff that I need. And it's got stuff in there I need to throw it away because I never use it. You go to the tote and what do you pull out? Your smoker and your hive tool. That's all you need. You might have a queen clip in your pocket if I need to catch a queen, but that is, like I said earlier, I rarely even see my queens, much less need to put them in a clip. So yeah. If you watch a lot of YouTube, that's one thing you have to be careful of. You don't need to buy everything. With one hive, you don't need to spend $500 on a vaporizer, from the get go. So but if you watch YouTube, you think you really need to do that. So if you watch some channels.
Oh, there's some of it you're like, I'm really glad we didn't go down that rabbit hole thing to buy this and buy that. And we'd be broke more than we are now, and most of it's sitting on the shelf.
Which, I mean, too, we learned that lesson. We've told the story before, so I'm not going to tell the story, but doing our first cutout. Like, we learned then, everything you see on YouTube ain't how it really works. We cut a lot of that out at that point.
Or it's not as easy as some make it look.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the blessing and the curse of videos is the old edit button.
Yes. It's not fair.
Yeah. I hear some people talking about some of these videos where the beekeeper's working with, never has to wear a suit, never has to do this, never gets stung, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but if you watch real close in the first 30 seconds of that video, there's 5 edits. You can see it. You can see it skip. So something went on there that we didn't see. Not sure what, but I bet I can tell you what. But yeah.
You dropped that frame. Tell us the truth. You dropped that frame.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. I edit out some of that stuff, and occasionally, I hate to say it, but I'll let what they say on Star Trek, they called it a colorful metaphor. I think that's what they called it. When one of the bees will sting you in some sensitive spot, and it just kind of comes out. So yeah, you gotta edit that out.
You little girl, you. You got me.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
I say that a lot. Bless
Yeah.
your darling little heart.
I'm fixing to hive tool test you. I tell you that because you done pushed me there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
Keith
hives.
got a question
What's
real quick.
okay?
'Cause I was gonna say what Steve just said. He said, "How long can you leave a virgin and a queen clip inside the hive?" But Steve beat me to it. Sometimes they can slip out of that clip if they're virgins.
Yeah, she's skinny enough. We've had them mosey right on at that bad boy.
But I do agree with Gary too. No more than just a couple, 3 days kind of thing.
That's why if you want to get one, get the if you want to keep her in there for several days and not worry about her getting it,
Little, what, Jay-Z?
the Jay-Z.
Jay-Z something.
Yeah, where you can put the candy in and let
That's
her or let them chew her out. Then you know she ain't going to escape out of that cage. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if they're going to accept her, they pretty well going to do it. Or if not, as soon as they get to her, game over.
Yeah. But
Yeah, that's one of the. I don't even know if I got any of them in here or not. Show anybody.
I don't think we do. I think they're all up there.
Let's see here. Pushing button. Well, I'm trying to mosey back up through some of these questions here. See if anybody. But Keith, we got about 30 minutes left. If you're all right with it, we'll open up the chat. Anybody that wants to come in and holler at you. If not, we'll just carry on from here, derail, talk about food or wherever it goes.
Yeah, I can hang around 30 more minutes. I've got to go help one of my folks pull some honey tomorrow, and she bought her a new hand crank 4-frame extractor that she don't know what to do with. So we're gonna pull some honey early in the morning, and I'm gonna show her how to use an extractor. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
We still got the hand crank. Y'all don't worry.
Oh,
Yeah.
we do.
We're keeping it old school too.
Yeah, I was still using my hand crank when I made that 50 gallons, and Lord, I'd crank with one arm till it gave out, and I'd crank with the other arm, and then you had to flip your frames around, and it'd be out of balance. So you're hugging the extractor so it's not running across the floor and cranking. And I tried to fix it where I could hook a drill up to it, but that went way too fast. So yeah, I sold it to my neighbor, and I bought a 9-frame Hilco electric. And that was it's a lot easier to push the button than it is to crank the handle.
Oh, I imagine it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, that ball bearing and extractor. Who was that? Is Lee gone? Is he still in here, maybe?
He was in here for just a minute. So he said, I guess they had went out of town to be with his cousin.
Oh,
He
dude.
was saying they had just got finished.
Oh, you're talking about flipping the extractor over and dropping that ball out of the center that the frame holder sits in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Lee, what was the name of the all the bearing grease you could put in there? The food safe bearing grease you sent me a while back. You happen to remember that off the top of your head by chance? Just in case there's anybody out there wondering, what kind of grease can you put on there?
Yeah, I don't use this. Yeah, I just use a food grade silicon.
I don't think that's what Lee said.
It was a food grade something or other along those lines. I was trying to remember the name of it.
I don't know what he said.
Yep. What you doing there? You Mexican?
Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, Keith.
Hey, Philip, how you doing?
Good. It's been killing me. I got a question for you, and I know nobody's been asking. I don't know why. It's the most important question of the night. But I've been driving, so I hadn't been able to get it in. So as soon as they let me in, I got to get my question out, okay?
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, I want to know when you're going to take that beagle off that leash and let him run a rabbit. I want to hear that thing. I want to hear that beagle go,
Well, the main reason we've got Samson is because he kept running off from his previous owner. So that's why I've got him on a leash. If I was to take him off a leash and he runs across one of these deer trails, then I'll be looking for him because he's going to run a whole lot faster than I can.
Yeah.
he'll come back. He'll come back in a couple of days.
But yeah. Oh, I'd love to see him run, Philip. But man, if he's a stubborn little fella, man. If I turn him loose with all the critters we got around here, he'll be gone.
There's nothing like watching a beagle work on them big swamp.
Yeah.
Swamp rabbits.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someday, but
they'll swim rivers and anything else. They won't give up.
Yeah, I mean, the two dogs I've got, I guess, are the best noses out there. You know, the Bloodhound Blue and a Beagle. So, but Blue's been around so much. I don't want to say she's smelled it all and seen it all because she don't ever see anything, but they smell everything. But deers, rabbits, nothing really bothers Blue anymore. She's just bored with it all. So, but Samson is not bored with anything.
Hey, Pastor Larry.
Hey, good evening.
Hey, Larry.
How you doing this evening, Pastor Larry?
Oh, we're doing good. I just wanted to hop on a minute and holler at Keith while he was on here. We're not about 2 hours apart.
Yep.
And
yep. Listen, you're down in Lancaster?
Yeah, I think we're about 2 hours south of you.
Yeah, yeah.
And we kind of followed your lead this year on our honey super. Last year, I think we were way late getting our supers on. Of course, we had a weird flow last year. Everything bloomed early at one time and then just quit.
Right.
But so this year we weren't quite as early as you, but we followed your lead and we got to looking. And I said, you know, we've got a lot of little stuff coming in here and there. We done pulled all our feed off of them, and so we threw our supers on there a little bit later in March, and so it looks like it's paying off.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the fact when ours kicked in, our bees really we fed them through the winter with some apis in our sugar water, put some fondant on them, and when they started off, it looked like they're going to be a little slow. But I'm going to tell you what, when Charlie always talks about it, he said if you're going to put apis in there, you better be prepared to stack boxes when spring hits. We weren't quite as prepared as we thought we were when it hit, and they've been outrunning us, and we are finally getting to the place that we feel like we might have caught a half a breath in the past 2 days.
Yeah.
So they have kept us busy, but no, it's helped. It seems like, and we're actually looks like we're going to have a decent flow for a change. We've got rain when we needed rain. We got like an inch of rain one weekend on a Sunday. The next weekend we got an inch of rain. Didn't last all that long. The bees can still fly.
Yeah.
And right now we're getting a little bit dry. They're not really calling for much right now, but so far we've been in good shape. Our moisture's been good, but I hadn't had them shut. The only problem we've had up until just probably the last week, we've had a lot of real cool mornings, and it's kind of kept them at bay, for about half the day and working. That's one reason we couldn't stay up with them, because we couldn't open them up till lunchtime or right after lunch. It was just too cool. And so now we're getting that warm temperature, we're in the 60s in the mornings, and so we don't have that problem. So
right,
we're on a little more even keel, but so we got stuff coming out. Tulip poplars in full bloom down here. Honeysuckle, we got the most blackberry. I've never seen blackberries bloom like we've got everywhere. So I put a little short on, I think a few days ago. We've got 3 hives, a little yard, about less than a mile from where we're at. But they cleared that land off, and a couple of years ago, or last year before, big pasture and pushed everything up in rows and just left it. And everything's grown up in blackberries. I mean, it's a long field. There's like 9 to 12 rows over there. And every one of them is covered in white blackberry blooms now. And I said, them 3 hives there, they got no excuse for not making no honey. We didn't make any honey. We just had them over last year. We didn't make a drop of honey off of them last year. I'm like, they're going to have to get out of the welfare line. If they can't make honey out of that, they're going to have to put them somewhere else.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, the poor blackberry bushes for, 10 months out of the year, it's just a briar thicket. And then for 2 months, they're blackberries. And, the rest of the year, they're just briars.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you got the same stuff going on down there as we do, the blackberries and the tulip poplars. So, the tulip poplars, that's amazing how much the bees get from those trees. That's the money tree for me.
Yeah, we got a couple right in our bee yard. Matter of fact, our main yard. We got one. Actually, one of them, the one right there in the apiary, is the one they love to swarm on when they do swarm. There's a limb right above them, and that's where they seem to land.
Yeah, it's
which
like
I'm okay as long as they stay on that bottom limb, but
Yeah, it's like swarming at Golden Corral.
Yeah.
So it's a good place to hang out.
Yeah, here's the buffet. Let's pull over here.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm glad the early supers worked out for you. On a good hive, I don't really know what the downside it would be to getting the supers on early. Folks talk about putting too much space on them that they can't look after, but one super on a good hive is not that much space. So I haven't had any trouble doing it. It seems to work.
Yeah, we've had some smaller hives and it hadn't really seemed to make that much difference. But our big hives that just came out busting. We wasn't going to last year. We tried some demarays, and the method we went about, we decided not to do that. It didn't really pay off that much for us. But now this year, we hadn't really planned on making that many, but we got about 7 sitting there. We went in, and the way they exploded, they had to have. We run single deeps. Through the winter or coming into spring, we have a deep. Most of them have a deep and a medium on them, and we don't put a queen excluder. We just let the queen go and let her go up because she loves to go up and lay. Then after she gets going, we'll throw a queen excluder on it. So a lot of those we pulled. We pulled a lot of brood and put up in the box on top and threw some supers in between it, and But we watched the method, and I don't know, I can't remember who it was, and he showed how much. I mean, he ran. That's all he ran, and made tons of honey. But he ran foundation in those boxes of spacers and put his supers on top. We tried that last year, and it didn't really do much for us. So this year, we had watched some others, so we threw that brood up in a deep on top and threw some drone cone in between them, a couple supers, and on there early. And yeah, they've been bringing it in pretty good. So it looks like they're going to do well that way.
Yeah. But yeah, we had as far as your location down in South Carolina, my wife's family is from down that way. She had a lot of kin over in Pageland and over in Great Falls. So both of those aren't too far from you.
No, we're about less than 20 minutes from Pageland. We're actually about 10 miles east of Lancaster, so we're in between Lancaster and Pageland.
Oh, okay.
So, it takes us about 15, 17 minutes, I guess, to get to Pageland.
Okay.
Great Falls isn't that far away. Matter of fact, I got saved in a little church over there back in the 80s in Great Falls, so I got a lot of good memories over in Great Falls. Yeah,
her family, a lot of them were in Great Falls, and it was a happening little place when J.P. Stevens was there. Then they shut all the mills down, and the town shut down too. So
that's the way the little town that I pastor right outside of Kershaw, and we do our kids outreach in Kershaw, right across from where the old mill was, and they tore it down to nothing but a concrete slab. Just been kind of a dried up town, but they got a gold mine open there now, and that is really, really booming. So that's about the only thing going for it. But they do have a Dollar General sitting on the old concrete slab now. That's the only thing they've done.
They're everywhere.
Not that we didn't already have one on the other end of town. It's only 2 stoplights and 1,800 people, but we have 2 Dollar Generals, Family Dollar, and a Dollar Tree. So
And the parking lot's probably got cars in all of them.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everybody hates them, but that's where they go. It's amazing. So,
Tim, I think you were talking about privet down there, about y'all being dry. And I noticed some of our privets starting to come out. And we got one tree, I've been wanting to cut it down. It's around the old goat pen down there, and it just grew up wild, but it produced so much last year. We decided to leave it. I rode by it yesterday and looked, and I said, well, I don't see a thing on it. I got one up, looked close, and it ain't got one, not the first sign of blooms on. Well, let me take this back. I saw it early in the year, and it looked like it was about ready to come out, but it really looked real dry. It just looked like maybe it's just not getting the water it needed. If this little dry spell we've been going through, but some of our privet around here is coming out. A lot of Chinaberry trees coming out. I didn't realize we had that many. I heard, I think it was y'all talking about it last week about having that purplish bloom on them, and I didn't realize that's what it was. I just seen a ton of it alongside the roads and stuff around this area, and we don't have any right here on the property, but nearby, I got a dog in the background back here too.
All right,
Part Beagle and Chihuahua and spoiled rotten. She's probably barking at cats that she don't do nothing, play with them. She goes out the door. She'll stand inside the door and bark at them all night.
Yes, I don't know what the deal is with the Chinaberry, because I mean that's the same here with that Chinaberry this year. I mean, it's just you could see it all out in the woods, and you never thought it was there before. But as we drive by places, I'm constantly pointing out to Hannah. I'm like, well, there's another doggone Chinaberry blooming out there.
Well, now, do you know if they bloom every year or not? Because we just can't. We've been watching the flow pretty hard the last couple of years, seeing what's out there. And I told Jen, I just don't remember between here and church. Matter of fact, I mean, it's on both sides of the road. We just seen tons of it. And I'm like, I never even have noticed this in the last 2 years. So I don't know if they bloom every year or not, but I see them everywhere.
I think they do.
They bloom. Go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say, I think they do. There's one down the street from my house, but my parents had one in the yard, and it bloomed every year. It makes those, some berries all over that the birds eat, and they say they get drunk off of them or something. But doesn't the catawba worm eats the leaves off of them too? No, that's not the Chinaberry. That's something else, isn't it? Might be what I'm thinking of.
I knew we had a Chinaberry back when I was, I guess, preteen in our backyard. I remember having one. I didn't know they were that popular, that many around until we saw them. Maybe it may be just the weather affects them different, but this year, whatever it is, they're liking, because like you said, everywhere you go, we're just constantly pointing them out to each other. They're all over. We moved a few hives to different locations this year, just kind of break up from having all our hives concentrated here in one place. And so we carried a few to another place, and we're noticing, Chinaberry trees down there too.
I learned, the Chinaberry's blooming here too. I learned about a new tree. I learned about a lot of plants to keep bees, but I was driving down the road out there in the country, and I saw on the left-hand side of the road a tree that had a bunch of white blooms all over it. The blooms looked kind of like privet blooms, little tiny white blossoms. And then I stopped, and I looked, and I was like, well, the leaves look like a dogwood. And so I took my phone out, and I took a picture of it, and I ran it through my plant identifier, and it said it was a rough leaf dogwood is what it called it. Anybody ever heard of that? It doesn't have the big white flowers. It's got a bunch of tiny white flowers, and the bees were all over it.
Never heard of that. I've heard of white and pink, but
it's growing all over the fence rows out there. And the leaves look just like a classic dogwood leaf. But the blooms look more like a privet.
You said it's called a rough leaf?
I think it's called rough leaf dogwood. I think that's what they call it.
I've never heard of that. I'm going to Daddy about that.
Google it, see what that bad boy looks like.
My daddy knows more than Google it.
I know that.
Especially that tree.
Yeah, I had to look up Chinaberry because that was a new one to me. It said it's not as common in North Carolina as in other southern states. So I don't know that we have many of those around here. I know I don't have any that I know of on my property. So
You see Keith Laramore's comment on there? He said that was originally planted as pest control, kind of like marigolds.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Another one of those. So
I've always heard just like old timers talk about when the China berry bloomed, that they would collect the China berries and oftentimes just put them up for, say, back in the old days, people would keep different types of like peanuts and stuff like that on the table. And they just kind of draped them China berries in and around whatever, fruits and stuff that you had. And it would keep the fruit flies and things like that away longer,
Mhm.
stacked around
Hmm.
your peanuts and a few fresh fruits and things like that back in the old days.
yeah, so that is a lot like a marigold. Then you stick marigolds around certain other plants to keep bugs away from them because they stink so bad.
Well, okay. We're going to, Philip, we know you can't see the comment, but these questions are for you. I've got one, and Stone River's got one for you.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. Day before yesterday, or yesterday, whenever it was, on my end, I looked and I seen number 7, 7.5, or 8, as Stone River's calling it, for swarms.
Right.
All right. Stone River wants to know, is it 7, 7.5, or 8? I want to know, are you boogering these swarms like that fancy gal out there in Texas has tendencies to do to make them look good for YouTube? Go.
Are you posing swarms?
I don't know what's going on out there at the farm. Of course, it's that way the second and third week of April every year. It's been that way for the last 3 out of 4 years, and then the last 2 years in a row for sure. The thing is, I went out today. That's what the reason I went today. I was actually working a Boy Scout event yesterday. I was training for adults, and I was supposed to have been there today until noon. But I told them, I said, I got bees in boxes, and they're going to be building comb all over the bottom of frames. Of course, you tell somebody that they don't keep bees, they don't know what that means. And so I drove down just this morning to move those swarms into regular boxes, and we caught 7 swarms, and we only had 3 boxes to put back up, and I went back out there this morning, and all 3 of them had swarms in it. That were 10 days ago. So everything I had on my place had bees in it. And then I think I posted that one today where they didn't move in, they moved on to the bottom of it. But stay tuned. There's more craziness going to be coming out on YouTube with the swarms. So it's not over.
I just wanted to make sure you wasn't putting queens in no little P90 queen cages and hanging them off to the side and letting them just cluster around.
Depend on how much credit I get for them, because there's more than just that one I showed today. But I couldn't believe it. There was something else crazy, but I'm going to leave that for the YouTube. But depending on how much credit I get, I might have as many as 11 right now.
That's wild.
I'm trying to catch Todd now. I've set my sights on Todd.
Man, he blew my mind with how many swarms he's caught. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kicking it along pretty good too.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a crazy swarm day for me. I just pulled up in front of the house. So yeah, I left at 8 this morning, and I'm coming back at 9.
Good deal.
It's
how many
fun.
you got, Pastor Larry? Y'all getting on up there pretty good too, ain't you?
Yeah, we got 10 boxes right now. We've got one location we pulled 2 good swarms from a week apart, and went by. We picked it up Friday night. I got a short that I'm probably going to put on YouTube. I did when I picked it up Friday night about 9 o'clock, and hung another one back up in place. So we went by there after church today and looked, and they were scouting it pretty good again. But matter of fact, the first one we got from there, it's been, I don't know, less than a month. We've already got, we moved it to the out yard that we set up. Matter of fact, in that same location with a honey super on it. So they're in a 10 frame box with a honey super. And when we pick up Friday night, looks and feels just like that one. We hadn't. Tomorrow we'll pull it out and see what it looks like. But it looks like it's going to be. It's 6 frames. Looks like packed full of bees. Exact same location, a week apart. So.
Hey, Keith, how many you sitting at?
I've caught 3, and I've got 1 in my Johnny House swarm box right now. So I've got to get them out.
So, yeah, I thought I'm trying to figure out if those bees were coming from my hives or if I'm catching wild bees.
Mhm.
So this year I made a point to mark every queen I could find in all my colonies, and of the 10 or so I've looked into, and I probably saw 6 queens in those 10 that I could see in those swarms. I haven't found one that's marked yet, so I don't think they're coming from my colonies. I think they're feral bees from somewhere.
That's good.
Well, good deal.
That's awesome. I wish our swarm season would turn on like that.
We got 1.
Their fly hadn't started anything yet.
I've got 3 traps right here around my house, and they haven't done anything. And I've got 4 up where my new yard is in the little community called Crossroads, and they haven't caught anything either. But the ones out at the farm, just like clockwork, they just knocking them down. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I know I'm so,
Fishing for bees.
That's it. Yes, sir.
I know I'm
When you know
supposed to.
better bite.
I got the good pastor on here. I know I'm supposed to keep the Lord's Day holy, but I kind of look at it like I used to look at when I would camp with the scouts. Sometimes I'd rather be working bees and thinking about the Lord than sitting in church and thinking about bees.
Didn't I make a country song that said that? No.
Philip said something a moment ago that made me think about something you're talking about when you're talking about building comb on the bottom, and you say that to somebody that's not a beekeeper, they don't know what you're talking about. I think we've gotten so used to sitting around almost every night being on a bee chat with somebody. I mean, somebody on every night, and we sit around and chat. That I'm coming to realize that when you get outside of the bee chat and you get out there with your friends or other people that you meet and they have questions, and you start talking about bees that you're passionate about, and they're alone, their eyes are just glazed over.
Roll back in their head.
I'm looking at them and I finally realizing you don't understand the thing I'm saying, do you? It's like running into somebody that speaks a different language and you're trying to communicate.
Here's here's the difference. If you're talking to somebody that don't mess with bees, they're like, "You're gonna do what?" And then if you're talking to somebody that keeps bees, they're like, "Why aren't you sitting there talking to you? You better. Those bees are making comb right now. You better get out there and take care of it."
Yeah, you should have done that months ago.
It's our conversations around the house, and we're here, and even Miss Leona, we have her. She was sitting in the truck 9 o'clock on a Friday night while I'm down there pulling a box down next to the pond, getting that swarm. And of course, she stayed in the truck, but she rides right along with us whenever we go get them. But so she sits around and she hears all the talks. And she pretty well understands. She knows about all the beekeepers online, and that's just for us. That's our normal conversation. And then we're online going through the chats and commenting. I have found out really quick that when I start talking to someone and like I said, things that just seem to be ordinary for us, you don't think nothing about it. And then people start asking me, and when they get way offline, you're talking about one thing over here, and they're like, you tell them, how many frames of bees you got over here, or how many boxes you got over here, and they're like, you got that many, or how many frames you got or something. You got that many boxes? And I realized we were this far apart.
Yeah.
This conversation on something else.
Yeah, when my kids are helping me at the market, every now and again, a beekeeper will walk up and start to talk to me. And they know they just got to step up and start working and selling because I'm going to be gone for at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So we're over here. That's one thing that'll shut everything down. If a beekeeper walks up, we're going to talk.
Yeah.
We're going to talk bees for a little while.
Yeah, I've got now where if anybody walks up to us and starts talking about bees, the first thing I do if Michelle's standing there is like, they started it, not me. They asked me. I didn't do it.
It's not your fault, Keith.
It's not my fault. And then here we go. Because a lot of people, gosh, once they find out you're a beekeeper, they love to ask questions.
Yeah.
They might not understand anything you're saying, but they're just fascinated with it.
They might regret it after about 30 minutes. They might regret asking that question.
Yeah, their eyes roll back in their head. Yeah, it's.
I tell them, how much time you got because I can talk about this for several hours. Who was that? Stuart something. He's over in England, but he had a great T-shirt he would wear sometimes. It said, he said, I really care about what you're saying, but I just really want to talk about the bees. That's what he said on his shirt. I care about what you're saying, but I really just want to talk about the bees.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get back to the bees real quick.
My wife doesn't get into beekeeping, but she likes to listen to us.
Oh yeah, that's Michelle. She sits right beside me watching all these chats, and she never works the bees with me because she always gets stung. But she knows all about beekeeping though.
Oh, I do have to. I'm gonna reveal this on this show because I told him I was going to talk about it. So my son's been helping me in the bees, which, well, I tell you what, I missed him today for a couple reasons. One is carrying all those darn boxes and stuff to the truck. He's 24 years old. He doesn't get as tired as I do. But the other reason is he was my. I think it might have been Randy, Tar Heel Randy, or somebody said I had him in a video, and he opens the gate for me, and Randy said, "I like your automatic gate opener." I said, "Yeah, it works just like my dad's TV remote did when I was a boy." But anyway, we were working the bees, and we had a lot to do, so we split up. He was working on a box, and I was working on the box. And he looked up, and he said, "This bee over here is twerking." I don't know if y'all know what twerking is, but that's that dance where they shake their butt. And I said, "You mean the waggle dance?" He goes, "What's that?" I said, and I explained to him what the waggle dance was, and I laughed about it. And he said, "You're going to tell people about that on the chat, aren't you?" I said, "I sure am." So now every time I see one, I say, "No, this bee over here is twerking."
To give them direction.
I'm never gonna look at a bee doing the waggle dance the same way again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was funny when he looked up and said, "You're going to talk about this in the chat, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am. I'm going to tell everybody."
I would have thought of young and out on something along those lines. I mean, I kind of cut myself the other day when we had the swarm over at John's. I was trying to explain to him because my buddy asked, he's like, "Well, what are y'all putting in boxes to bait them things?" And I was like, "Well, I'm glad you asked." I went to explain him about the lemongrass and the nasonol pheromone. I said, "Well, lemongrass oil kind of mimics a pheromone that the bees put off." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And I just kind of got a little bit more in the process. Well, she puts her hind end in the air. She puts the pheromone out. Everybody knows that's where we're going to go home, most likely. So they just go to that pheromone. And by the time we got done with conversation, I knew I done lost him way on back there. I told him, I said, "I'm going to let you run on back inside, brother."
my God.
It sounds like we're all guilty of the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
What Brian said, I'm instructed to step out of the, if I'm going to talk to a beekeeper about beekeeping in the market.
Oh, he ain't going to put his tail on now.
Get out, bro. That's hilarious.
It does kind of ball things up.
Y'all, we at the 2-hour mark, and we don't want to hold Keith because he's had a long day and got another day ahead of him as well, too. But before we go, and gentlemen, if y'all like to hang around, you're more welcome. But Pastor Larry, if you will, it's been requested, and I'm glad it was. But
A few people actually requested.
yeah, if you'll close us out this evening in a word of prayer, especially for Lee's cousin, as she's having that surgery tomorrow to get that stomach cancer, and along with the many others being added to the list for now diagnosis of cancers. But if you don't mind, if you kindly close us out on that, I'd sure greatly appreciate it for the folks that we know.
All right, certainly will. Father, we thank you so much that we can come to you with anything, the good, the bad, everything in between. We thank you for the care you take over each one, and we do lift up Lee's cousin, Stephanie. We just pray, Father, if your hand be upon her, that healing come to this body, be with the family and those close to them, and just give them that comfort during the time they're going through. And you've heard every name that's been called out on this prayer list this evening. And Father, we're so thankful that each week as we hear these names, we know that you're right there with them, that there's not a need that's too great and there's nothing that's too small in our lives that you're concerned. If it touches us, you're concerned about it. So we thank you for that. But Father, we just look to you. We lift all these names up, Father. Those going through cancer, we recognize that cancer is not any bigger for you than anything else, so that we know that you can just speak the word. So Father, we look unto you for healing. We look unto you to be the peace and the comfort for the caregivers and the families and the loved ones of all going through these situations, Father, especially for the children as well. Father, we pray your hand just be upon them. Father, we know there's a wide array of beekeepers and of people associated with beekeeping. Father, we look to you and we just count it a blessing, Father, to be able to, we stand amazed as we just watch these little creatures and your creation. But Father, we just ask that you'll just watch over each one. You know what we need. Send each one what they need, Father, and whether they're doing it for a hobby or an occupation or whatever the case might be. Help us to use what you send us to bless somebody else. And Father, in everything we do, let it bring glory to you and point somebody to you. So Father, we thank you now for this community. May your hand be upon them. Keep those that have to travel safe. And we give you all the praise for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Pastor Larry.
Yes, sir. Keith,
Very nice.
we sure appreciate your brother dropping by and letting folks pick your brain and telling us
Talking
about
about
it.
Bertha.
Yeah. And y'all, we talked about bees.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
We did a good long while tonight. We didn't even get to food.
I was going to say, I don't remember the last time we had a chat that we did not derail into cooking.
No. But and to Pastor Larry and Philip, appreciate y'all dropping by and
No problem.
giving us conversation this
It
evening.
was fun having people to talk to tonight.
It was fun.
Yeah, and the chat's been lively too. We appreciate everybody in the chat, and if you're watching on a replay later on, we appreciate you.
Earl,
There you go.
come in right at the end.
Oh, Earl be
Hey,
watching.
Yeah.
Hey, Earl.
Mhm. Hopefully, we'll be seeing
Hey, Earl.
him before too long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
We'll keep it hush because I imagine a lot probably kind of forgot about it, but there's a good chance we'll be seeing old Earl too long. Shoot me a text if we still on for that when you get a chance, Earl. But yeah, but y'all till then, God bless you. Lord willing, we'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all take care.
Y'all have a good week, everybody.
See y'all later. Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Y'all take care.
Well, guess that's it for today. See you next time at Gunline Bees.